Hey guys, it's the social side. The revitalization of It's Consulting Time is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, It's Consulting Time back to the basics is supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time back to the basics every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time back to the basics with your girl Lillie Mae. See you there. What's up, folks? Yes, we are back. All right, so I'm starting early tonight because I need to present you with some information. And guys, it's about to get so real. The end of the year is coming. The end of the year is coming. And so I want to talk to you briefly about shout out to Tiffany Michelle for sending me some information from the IRS. And so they have released the 2023 tax brackets. And I want to break this down for you real quick, okay? I want you to understand, what this means. All right. So basically where we are with these tax brackets is that, and hold on, bear with me 1 second because I want to make sure I give you good information. All right. So anybody making less than $11,000 is still taxed at 10%. Anybody making $11,000, so between $11,000 and $44,275, you're being taxed at 12%. Okay, so it looks like if you make $11,000, 12% of that is like $1,320. All right, if you're making $44,000 some odd dollars, 22% of that is close to $10,000. So technically, you only bringing home $34,000 a year. Now, mind, these are the income levels. Now, this isn't considering, all of your deductions and things of that nature. It's not considering all of that. So I don't want you to, get too caught up in all, but I want you to hear these numbers. And the reason I want you to understand these numbers is because this is interesting. Someone that makes $578,000 is only taxed at 37%. Their tax liability is only like $213,000. So that means they're still bringing home $370,000. So I really want you to really think about these numbers. The standard deductions have increased. So I want you to really think about these numbers as tonight we tackle a really, really, really important topic. And I'm taking off my glasses because it's going to get real tonight. And I don't want to fog my glasses up because tonight we're going to talk about voting, but we're not going to talk about it the way you think we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about, the whole political process, what voting looks like. We're going to talk about what it looks like from before the presidential candidates are nominated, clean up into voting, the Electoral College, and all of those different things. Yeah. So, and really, we stopping on time tonight because, guys, life is lifing, and life is lifing in such a magnificent way. So, I have a lot of different things that have to get done. So I definitely want to make sure that everybody gets the information, but I also need to make sure that I'm handling business on my end. So I'll be doing a couple of different things. I will be, managing the comments. I'm gonna try to make sure, because last week, shout out to everybody that tuned in last week and truly, truly was amazing and asking questions and things of that nature. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because that's the only way we can truly, make this thing pop. And so I definitely want you to continue to tune in. Love you guys. Really appreciate all of you that tune in and engage. And so feel free to drop comments and things of that nature. So let's get this rolled on the show, guys. So last week we went back through and we talked a little bit about we talked a lot about political parties. We talked a lot about kind of, the difference between political parties, what that looks like and things of that nature. So what I want to do first and foremost, I want to run back through and kind of talk about why it's important to understand the political process. And a big part of the reason it's important to understand the political process is because realistically, when we look at where we are in the world, okay, there is a distinct difference between policy and politics as we see it played out in the media, right? And so we have to understand that politics are those activities of the government or of the people who try to influence the way a country is governed. Whether you agree with it or not, that's just what it is. Then we talked about what political parties are, and political parties are legitimately organized group of people with common values and beliefs who, they try to find candidates, or they try to groom candidates that can, fulfill those things. So, I don't want you to get so caught up in the party as much as I want you to understand the ideology of being a conservative, being a liberal, being a moderate, being a progressive, being a conservative, those type of things, because I want you to understand that those things are very important as we begin to talk about voting and elections and things of that nature. Now, one of the other things with political parties is all political parties have one thing in common, and that's how they're organized, okay? Remember, the Democrats were, the depiction of the Democrats were donkeys and the Republicans were elephants. Can anybody remember how these symbols came to be? I know we talked about it last week, so I want to know if anybody can tell me how they came to be. I definitely want you to be there. Hi, everyone tuning in. Hi, Chelsea. Hi, Tiffany. Guys, if you're here, check in and let me know who's here so I can shout you out. All right. So now, each political party has a platform, okay? Now, each political party platform is like, it's almost like operating principles. It's almost like what you stand on, right? Y'all be like, I stand on it. Well, a party's platform is simply like a list of their principles and things of that nature, which they, which each party supports in order to appeal to the general public. That's us, right? For the purpose, though, for the purpose of having their candidates voted into office. So these principles that each party adopts is utilized in order to appeal to the general public for the purpose of having their party candidate voted into office. Think about what I'm saying here. We also talked about last week about why it's so important that for as much as we're independent and we don't want to pick a side, understand this, guys. I'm never choosing you to pick a party. I'm always asking you to pick the issues that you really care the most about and utilize those when you're voting, because two's company, but three is a crowd. And the United States uses a winner takes all system in elections. It's called the plurality system, okay? And because of that, no third party candidate has ever taken the White House. So I'm begging you, when you are voting, guys, please be mindful that throughout history, third party candidates have been influenced, since y'all like them influencers so much, have been influenced and empowered to run to sway these elections, guys. And I really, really, really need you guys to learn to stop not voting because you feel like your vote don't count. Stop voting just because you think this person is going to do this, and really research and find what issues you feel impact you the most and see what those people are saying about those issues. Pick the top 3 things in your life that you really need support with and that are really impacting you, and definitely, yay, Toya. Y'all, that's my girl Toya from Danville, Virginia. We grew up on Claiborne Street. Yes, and she is correct. And it was in Harper's Weekly cartoon. Yes, girl. So I got something for you, girl. Okay. That made me really excited. Okay, yep, Thomas Nash. That's right, Tiffany, in Harper's Weekly. Yes. So definitely, okay, y'all know I be getting excited. So, like I was saying, realistically, what we want to do though is we want to make sure that when we're voting, we are being conscious that number one, the United States uses what's called a plurality system. Winner takes all. So I'm not telling you who to vote for or how to vote. I'm just saying you might want to be careful voting for third parties, because what ends up happening is, I told y'all, in that election with Al Gore and Bush, y'all, in 2000, that thing broke my freaking heart. The election, you know how everybody was saying the election was stolen from Al Gore? Well, in essence, it was. It was politically stolen from him because Ralph Nader was that wild card. And had Ralph Nader not been in that race, a lot of those votes would have went to Al Gore. Okay, but anyway, and so finally, we did not really get into the functions of political parties, but I definitely want to go there with you. Generally, political parties function to do a couple of things. They select candidates, they set goals for government, they play watchdog, and they almost give a people a voice and jobs. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight and then more next week. Because, guys, I want you to start thinking about getting involved in the political process. I really need you to start thinking about getting involved in the political process, okay? So let's dive into this week's conversation. So tonight we're going to operationalize politics, the political process, and the voting process. And just to operationalize the two main parties once again, Democrats are generally advocates for equality and justice, whereas Republicans are generally all about maintaining the status quo, keeping things as it was, as it is, and they're about big business. And so the question is, well, how do you navigate politics? Well, guess what, baby? I'm here to tell you tonight. The way you navigate politics is political participation. And we're going to get there tonight. Okay. So, as we talk about political participation and things of that nature, I want you to understand two concepts. Okay. And that's the concept of classical liberalism and modern liberalism. Now, classical liberalism pretty much kind of dates back to like the Industrial Revolution, right? And so that's when capitalism more or less started to grow, okay? And while these, and I'm gonna say it like this, these were more of your negative freedoms. Classic liberalism generally keys in on more of your negative freedom. So the freedom from oppression, freedom from discrimination and things of that nature. It's almost like looking for the equality in opportunity. But the thing about looking for equality and opportunity is you create inequalities. because you have all of these. So you have these industries, right? And you're bringing all these people in and you're paying them minimum wage to do jobs that literally could take their life without adequate benefits. So while you're providing the opportunity to make money, you're creating the inequality, because if they lose their life, their family's lost too. And so that's kind of like the idea of classical liberalism. Well, modern liberalism focuses more on those positive freedoms. And guess what, baby? Anybody that studies psychology, anybody that studies sociology knows about Maslow. Okay? As Maslow's hierarchy starts with basic needs being met. Okay? So modern liberalism takes that into account and says you cannot be free if your basic needs are not met. So that's freedom to access education, healthcare, adequate employment, not just any employment, adequate employment. And so progressives more or less embrace this concept of modern liberalism, and they look at the equality of outcome. See, a lot of y'all out here looking for opportunities. You're an opportunist, and that's why you're staying where you are. You are spiritually, mentally, and physically broken because you're looking for an opportunity instead of looking for a better outcome. And those are two different things. Now, you research that yourself, because I'm not here on the clinical basis tonight. We're talking about business, and we're getting back to the basics. All right. So, understanding, politics, understanding the process. Guys, there are elections coming in less than a month. So there is no coincidence that I'm having this conversation with you guys tonight. Okay? I need you to know there's no coincidence we're having this conversation tonight. So let's go through. We're going to go through 6 steps. We're going to go through 6 steps in like 40 some minutes. Y'all know I ain't got no glasses on, so I can't see. But we're going to try to get through these 6 steps. All right. So first step is the nomination, because I want you guys to understand the political process. So the first step is the nomination. And this is where, voters in each party select a candidate. Now, this process generally begins in January and runs through June, because the primaries are generally in June. Okay. Now, what are primaries? Primaries are like those intra-party elections. And so basically what that means is you choose a person amongst a group of people in the same party you support. Okay? Now, these primaries can be open or they can be closed. So let's just step back. The first step in electing a president is the nomination process, okay? That's the first step. Now, generally speaking, this is where you begin, when you start hearing people putting their bid in, the first step in electing the president is the nomination process. And follow me, because you're going to start to see how the media plays this thing up in just a minute. Okay. So, step 1 is what? Step 1 is nomination. And I'm going to type that in the comments so you remember. Step 1 is nomination. Okay? I want y'all to remember that. All right. Step 2 will be the primaries or the caucus. All right, we're going to walk through this because it's multiple ways to this. So most states hold primaries, right? Most states hold primaries. And once again, those primaries are those inter-party elections, right? But there's also Colorado. I know Colorado, they might still do it. Colorado, North Dakota, some of those states, they hold caucuses, right? And it's like a multi-step process that starts in neighborhoods and matriculates to state conventions. And the idea is that if these nominees win these early primaries and caucuses, then they get media attention and donations to their campaigns. Now, most states hold primaries. Most states hold primaries, but y'all know what's so sad? Only like 20 to 30% of people participate in these primaries. And that's sad. It's so sad. Let me tell you this. You need to vote in the primaries. Y'all need to vote in June. Okay? Now, there can be an open primary and a closed primary. Now, the primary is the contest where the party selects a candidate. So, in a closed primary, only registered party members can vote. So what that means is, I know in some states, and I can't, y'all, maybe y'all can help me with this. In some states, you have to declare you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. So if it's a closed primary, only the registered party members can vote. If it's an open primary, all qualified voters can participate. And Texas actually has that. And so generally what happens is the day of the election, the voters have to decide whether to vote in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary. Now, okay, let me just tell you. Let me just keep it a buck with you. So with these primaries, I personally believe in crossover voting. Okay. And crossover voting is where you vote in a primary for a different party than you are registered in. I think it's very, very important. If you want to know why I think it's very, very important, hit me up offline. But I will say crossover voting is definitely important. You need to make sure you're following all the candidates and finding out what they have going on. So I definitely want you guys to look into crossover voting and just see, see what that means, see what it looks like, and then let's talk about it a little bit more. Okay. So, once you win, the early primaries and caucuses, and you start to get this media attention, there's something called Super Tuesday. Okay. How many people have ever heard of Super Tuesday? So Super Tuesday is generally that point in time when the states that have had their primaries and caucuses early get that attention, and they generally move their primaries and caucuses to the second week in March instead of June. Now, a lot of southern states do this. I know Texas definitely does it. Texas definitely participates in Super Tuesday. Okay, so and what do the candidates really get from the primaries and caucuses? Once again, candidates want to win often and they want to win early. But see, there's another caveat to this, and it's that local caucus. So the way local caucuses are run is that for like a couple of hours, supporters of different candidates go into one area of the room, right? Undecided voters stand in the middle of the room. Supporters of the other candidates try to persuade the undecided people to support their candidate. At a certain point in time, the supporters of the candidates are counted, and then delegates are chosen to attend the district convention to support their candidates. That's how the caucus works. So guys, the caucus is like a multi-step process. Voters begin at a local caucus in their neighborhood. Guys, a lot of times, all Democrats and Republicans with this caucus process meet at a neighborhood school, like say in the gym. So we're going to hold this caucus in the gym. All of y'all come in here. I'm going to put y'all in different. Y'all remember playing Four Corners? That's almost what it's like. And everybody that get out or not in the corner by the time the buzzer go off, they go to the middle of the floor. That's almost what this caucus looks like. Well, what happens is after this caucus and after all of that rigmarole is done, the delegates are chosen to attend the district convention to support their candidates. And this process is repeated over and over and over until it comes time for the state convention. So the delegates that's chosen at the local caucus, they end up being delegates for the district caucus, and then the delegates at the district caucus go through this initiation again, and then the delegates. So it's almost like process of elimination. We're going through all of these people. Guys, it's almost just like the picnic back in the day. And if y'all know what a picnic was back in the day, you're going to understand what I'm saying. It's almost like a picnic. So basically, you got these people now at the district convention. They're going through this same four corners game again, and then they picking the people that's going to go to the state convention. And guess what? When they get to the state convention, they do that same process again, and those are the delegates that are chosen to go to the national convention, and those are the people that begin the process of electing your nominee. All right, I know that was a lot. I know that was a lot, but are y'all with me? Are y'all with me? I want to make sure everybody with me. So we got what? We got nominations. We talked about primaries and caucuses. All right. Now we're going to move to the national convention. We're moving to the national convention. All right. Now, this is the thing about the national convention. Okay. Each party holds their national convention in August or September. Yeah, I'm glad y'all with me. Thanks, guys, so much for tuning in. So now we're going to talk about the national convention. So like I said, each party generally holds their national convention in like August or September. And at this national convention, three important things happen. The president and vice president, presidential candidates are officially nominated. However, generally what happens is, y'all know these people already know who their running mate gonna be. They act like they declare them. They already know for the most part. But the president, well, I'm gonna say the presidential candidate is officially nominated, and then he may or may not, he or she may not announce their vice president. The party platform is written. Y'all heard what I said? At the national convention, that these delegates who were chosen starting in the neighborhood, which is why I keep telling y'all asses, voting at the local and state is so important. You need to be involved because you could be one of them delegates at the national convention. I know I'm on my way. I'm just saying. So the party platform is written at the national convention. And this is the party stand on the issues, which is why you need to know what the issues are. And also, the third thing is that this is where the party unites behind one candidate. Now, let's just be real. Let's just be real. This does not happen all the time, okay? This does not happen all the time. I'm just going to be honest with you. We know it doesn't happen all the time. We know that. You know, there's so much splitting, you know, amongst these parties. So we know that this doesn't happen all the time. But I just want you to understand that at the national convention is where a lot of these major decisions take place. And it's important, guys. It's so important. So we get to this national convention. Now, one fun fact about the national convention, whatever party that's out of power goes first. So right now, the Republicans are out of power. So understand, at the national convention, the Republicans will go first. Okay. All right. Now, Labor Day has traditionally been the kickoff, but I know that has changed in recent years. I would have to really dig a little bit to figure out what it is now. Okay. So we've gotten to the national convention now. All right. We've gotten to the national convention, which is step 2 in the process. And like I told you, the party that is in power goes first. All right. Okay. So now we've elected we know who our nominees are for each party. And now we get to step 3. Anybody tell me what step 3 is? Step 3 is the campaign. Step 3 is the campaign. So now we're in the campaign. We're getting ready to, get into the campaign, and we getting ready to be rocking and rolling. And so what happens is, this is when the fun actually begins, the campaign, right? So what is the most annoying part of the campaign? The media. Because all of us get all of our information from TV, but the media is slanted, right? The media is slanted. They use polls. Now, I'm going to tell you something about the polls. Now, the polls, the public opinion polls, can be used by the candidates to find out how they're doing with voters. Now, realistically, public opinion polls are definitely inputs in the political process. The media, and guys, I'm talking about the real media. I'm talking about actual political analysts that provide this information to major networks. I'm not talking about these people that think they know for real, for real. I'm just saying. I'm just being real. Okay. All right. So we have to beware of propaganda, though, and those are just plain folks, the ones I'm talking about. Candidates want the voters to think they are just like us. Okay. And so they want you to jump on the bandwagon. Everyone supported me, and you should too. And so then they start using these glittering generalities, and they start getting your celebrities and stuff to jump in and start endorsing them. Why? Because they know that the people are ignorant. And I'm not calling you ignorant, but you have to think like a politician. Politicians think everybody is ignorant but them. And so and I'm going to be real, especially in our community, that is why they go get celebrities. They find the celebrities that are trending. They find the celebrities that you can't stop posting about on social media, that your social media threads are full of, and they use them. They use them not only to endorse them, but they also utilize the foolery that you guys share and talk about all the time to distract you from what's going on behind the scenes so that they can get this stuff out there. They do the card stacking. They only tell one side of the story. They be the crook, but they're going to tell you why their opponent is the crook. Name calling, testimonials, all of this stuff, guys, is propaganda that is utilized to confuse you. To confuse you. That's why it's so important that you get involved in the political process and take a stand on the issues, because you need to know what the issues are so that you can truly understand why it is important to vote. Okay? So we've gotten to the national convention, guys. So we're here. We've been through the primaries, we've been through the caucuses, we've gotten to the national convention, and now we're at the campaign. Okay. And the campaign is step 3. All right. Now, let's step back for a minute and just talk a little bit about the president. Okay, because I don't know if a lot of you know that there are 3 requirements for the president. They have to be a natural born citizen. They have to be at least 35 years old, and they have to have been a United States resident for 14 years. Yep. So those are your requirements, okay? Now, one of the other things that's really, really important, and we're going to get there, okay? We're going to talk about, before we even really dive into the general election, before we dive into the general election, because that's step 4. Step 4 is the general election. Before we dive into it, I want you guys to understand, and I'm going to put it in there. So just so when you go back, if you're, and shout out to everybody that's watching in real time, but if you watch it later, I want you to have the steps. So now we're going to jump into the general election, okay? But before, I want to go back and reiterate some of the things with the primary election, okay? The primary election has a couple of different things. First, I told you this is where voters decide which candidates are going to actually fill elected public offices, okay? It also is where the voters decide which of the candidates are going to represent the party in the general election. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is why it's important for you to vote in the primaries. Y'all forever saying your vote does not count, but it does. Because in the primary election, the voters decide which candidates will actually fill the public office. In the primary election, voters decide which of the candidates within a party will represent the party in the general election. So voting, I'm going to be real with you guys, not saying that it's more important, but it's just important to vote in the primaries as it is to vote in the general election. Because the primary election allows you to also, let me tell you something else. It also allows you to propose legislation or state constitutional amendments by submitting them to the electorate for a popular vote. Primaries can also be used to remove someone from office prior to the next scheduled election. So you need to stay on top of when your primaries are going. Okay. All right. So now let's get to step 4, the general election. All right. So, this is when we go vote, and it's always held on the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. I want you to listen. Election day is always the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. Okay, always. Do you understand? I need y'all to say it with me. Say it with me. Always. Election day is always the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. So we have election coming up, right? And since we have this election coming up, you need to understand, what that looks like. Now, I think, I'm not sure if they're doing this time, they were doing voting the day of. I don't know about this time. But the ballot. So it's printed by the state. It's private. It lists all the candidates and is handed out only at voting precincts. Now, you can vote absentee. You can vote absentee. And that's one of the things that was so controversial here in Georgia. They were trying to say, y'all previous president was trying to say that ballots were being, messed up and stuff like that. And they were double doing ballots and stuff like that. So, that's one thing though. You definitely can vote absentee. But guys, before we even talk about voting, I want to talk about a few things that states have done to regulate voter eligibility. The prohibition of all ex-felons from voting. And a lot of this stuff has changed, but that was one of the major things. Now, there are 2 states, and I gotta see, and maybe somebody can help me with that. There were 2 states that actually allowed incarcerated individuals to vote for a while. And they were voting from prison, which is so crazy, but they did. And I was like, okay, I personally, I think it's dope. I have a really great disdain that inmates can get cell phones and internet and all that stuff in prison, but you won't let them vote. Like, I just feel like some rights is just ridiculous to take away from them, because these people are going to reintegrate into society and you want them to be active. But realistically, a lot of the smartest people we know are in prison. I'm just going to keep it real. A lot of the smartest people we know are in prison. Okay, but back to the general election. And so, all right, so we get to the general election, you go out and vote. Now, the vote that we the people vote is called the popular vote. So general election, people in every state across the country vote for the president. So when we cast our vote, and this is what you need to understand. When we cast our vote, we are actually voting for the electors. Okay? Understand this. This is why so many people keep saying, my vote don't count, I'm not going to vote. But your vote does count, just not in the way you may understand. When we cast our vote, we are actually voting for a group of people that are called the electors, okay? Now, the electors are a combination of your representatives and your senators, okay? This is why, thank you, Tiffany, thank you. Vermont and Maine are the two states that allow incarcerated felons to still vote from the inside. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you so much. That's my co-pilot. She got it going on. But when we cast our vote, we're actually voting for a group of people called electors, okay? Now, the Electoral College, that's what it is, okay? In the Electoral College system, each state gets a certain number of voters based on its representation in Congress. That is why you have representatives plus senators. That's what equals your Electoral College. So when you're voting, the popular vote is utilized to get these electors. The idea is that the electors are going to vote the way the popular vote has gone. So what that means is, if you get your ass out there and vote, you won't have to worry about having these problems with your person not getting in. Because realistically, the Electoral College is to vote the way the popular vote comes in from their state. So get your asses out there and vote. Period. Your vote does count. So for all of you ignorant people who keep saying that your vote doesn't count, each state decides how the electors for their state will be chosen. Electors are chosen at state party conventions the summer before the election. So guess what? How many people gonna try to go there? See, how many people gonna try to get to these state conventions the way y'all be jumping to go to these award shows and these red carpets? I'm going. And if I can't go, damn it, I'm gonna have some eyes in there and be able to get some information. Another thing, electors also meet at the state capitals on the Monday following the second Wednesday in December. Did y'all know that? So I don't care what state y'all in. I want y'all to remember this. Electors meet at their state capitals on the Monday following the second Wednesday in December. These electors cast one vote for president and one vote for vice president, and that's in the 12th Amendment. That's bound by the 12th Amendment. Okay? Now, this is the interesting thing about the Electoral College. I bet y'all did not know, though, that when we sitting there on election night and we're watching all these numbers come in, do you know why they're called projections? Because the official ballots are not counted until, I think, the joint session of Congress in January after the election. And so the ballots are sealed, they sent to DC, and they are counted in front of a joint session of Congress in January. And during that time, the president of the Senate is providing. And this was so funny. The president of the Senate is the VP, the vice president, and the vice president is presiding. Okay? So altogether, there are 538 Electoral College votes. And in order for a candidate to win, they have to receive at least 270. And you guys should remember that from school. Okay. So I don't want to get too much in it because I got like 20 some more minutes. So I want to make sure that we get through all the steps and then just have time if anybody have any questions. All right. So step 5 is the Electoral College. And we did talk about the Electoral College. And I think that the Electoral College is very, very important. So guys, I really want you to, do your homework and learn a lot more about that. But now let's get to step 6, guys. Step 6 is the presidential inauguration. And that's when the president and vice president are sworn into office. And you can look up that information in the 20th Amendment. And the presidential inauguration is the last step in the process. Okay, so let's go back through the steps. Step 1 is the nomination. That's where we talk about your primaries, your caucuses, and things of that nature. Then you have step 2, the national convention. And remember that the party which is not in power goes first, and national conventions are held either in August or September, okay? Then is your campaign. Then you have your general election, the Electoral College, and then presidential inauguration. So guess what, guys? Contrary to popular opinion, the general election is the popular vote, which is done. What? When is it done? Somebody tell me. Oh, that's right. You're not here. So it's done the first, the second Tuesday. I always get it jacked up. It's done on the second, the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. And then the people at the state capitol, y'all know I get that thing, child. These dates. But needless to say, I want to make sure I put that back up there for you. Election day is always the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. So this is when the popular vote goes in. Okay. The Electoral College does not occur until that joint session in January after the election. Okay. So that's when the official Electoral College occurs. That's why the presidential inauguration isn't until 2 weeks later, because they got to make sure that everything is as it has been presented. And then you have, that presidential inauguration. And that's when we actually know that we have our president. So the United States president is elected every 4 years in general elections by popular vote, right? And the Electoral College. So you got popular vote, you got your state-based caucuses, you got the Electoral College, you got the primary elections, and you even have some referendums that we definitely need to talk about, because let's just be real. At the end of the day, there are a lot of people out here that don't even know why. Like, I'm going to tell you what's so crazy with the Electoral College. There's a reason why it's important for a candidate to carry California, Texas, New York, and Florida. California alone has 55 Electoral College votes. Texas got 38, I think, and New York and Florida got 29. So let's see, 55 and 38 is 93. And then you got 29, that's 122. And then you got 29 and 122, 151. So 151 votes, 151 Electoral College votes is carried by 4 states. Guys, that's a lot. So I'm telling you, it's important for these, nominees to carry certain states. Okay. Now, parties do realign. Okay. And I wanna say, let me think. It was some critical elections, and I want you to kind of know this information. It's not that it's all that important, but I kind of want you to get it, why understanding the issues is more important than voting, with a party. Because there have been in the history of the United States, prior to this last election, not with Biden, but the election with Donald Trump. I think the last critical election before that was 1972. But in 1800, Thomas Jefferson, do y'all know Thomas Jefferson's party, which was the Democratic Republicans, they dominated for 28 years. The Democratic Republicans held office for 28 years. And then Andrew Jackson redefined the Democratic Party of that time, and they dominated for like 28 more years. Then Abraham Lincoln's Republican Party, which was still the old Republican Party, they stayed in power for 20 years. And then in 1896, the Republicans came back and they were still in power. They dominated for 30 years. And in 1932, you remember, is when the parties flipped. And that's when Franklin D. Roosevelt came in. And there were 30 years of just democratic growth and the urban poor and the middle class, the farmers and the Southerners, they were kind of coming up and things of that nature. And then that was like for 40 years. So for 1932, 1972, you had all of this economic growth and things of that nature. But then comes 1972. And I'm going to tell you, no political party has really dominated a time span since then. I think in the past elections, we probably had an even split between the Democrats and Republicans, and the elections are coming more and more competitive. So, guys, I say all of that to say, stop being so bogged down with, oh, absolutely, Tiffany. Everybody need to be running. That's right, girl. Go get the information. But stop being so bogged down by political parties, guys, and really, truly start to think about the issues, because the issues matter. The issues definitely matter. And so realistically, and I'm going to put in the comments so you know, step 6 is the presidential inauguration. And so, guys, next week, we are definitely going to jump in and talk a little bit more about this process. I'm going to kind of talk to you more about the state and local process and how it really mirrors. The states mirror this process. So I don't want you to feel like this is an isolated process. But, guys, it's so important that as you are preparing for Christmas and things of that nature, understand that your vote does count. There are so many processes and procedures in place to assure the public that the outcome of elections can be trusted. Election officials have to have state training and professional instruction in election administration. I know that me and a couple of my friends, we actually signed up this year. We actually have signed up to be election officials, and I'm so excited to really, as a kid, I used to go to the polls with my parents. And back in the day, you remember when they had the curtains and the little lever that you had to pull down? And I remember my mom and dad used to let me pull the lever down. Or sometimes I would go and sit at the table when they were, signing the people in to vote. And I would just ask questions. And so I'm really excited to now to be able to actively get involved. Now, there are also positions for like election observers, which are poll watchers, and they're present to monitor or observe the election and just really pay attention to what's going on. So, guys, I really want you to get involved. Understand that literally, guys, there are so many processes in place to make sure that your voting is secure. So please don't let all of these conspiracy theorists and all these people that always got something to say about the man doing this and the man doing that. Guys, if you enter yourself in the process, you won't have to worry about the man, because you will be the man or the woman that is making sure that the integrity of the democracy is not taken away from us. Guys, it's been real. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to come back next week and talk to you guys again. But duty calls, and we got to get to it because these films are coming up, and it's just been a lot of fun. So, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't forget to hit me up. If you're watching outside of real time, please leave comments, please share, and just bring people in, because we have to get back to the basics. Have a great
Hey guys, it's the social side. The revitalization of It's Consulting Time is back, and we're taking it back to the basics. That's B2TB. This curriculum-based season will shine a light on public education surrounding civics, community organizing, and trending topics. Guys, It's Consulting Time back to the basics
It's supporting the transformation of cultures and subcultures while building self-sufficiency and generating collective impact. Remember, purpose over popularity is always and will always be our motto. Tune in to It's Consulting Time, Back to the Basics, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can even catch a few clips on Instagram. It's Consulting Time, Back to the Basics with your girl Lillie Mae. See you there.